I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Marquette City Commission on Monday, July 14th, 2014. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Combenzi?
Here.
Commissioner Campana?
Here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Here.
Commissioner Ryan?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Here.
Mayor Nemi?
Here. Thank you. Next item is note of agenda changes. Are there any? Commissioner Coyne?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to add to the agenda item number 3, I believe, the name Amy Manning for the Marquette City Representative on the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority for a term ending 7/1/17.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse to add Amy Manning as a name to be considered for appointment. All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we would entertain a motion for approving the agenda as amended.
Your Honor, could we consider removing item 4E from the consent agenda?
We will do that. We'll put that, we'll take that up at the same time as consent agenda, but
Okay.
we'll remove it for discussion. Now, do we have a 4E? Yeah. That's the license for the Iron Ore Heritage Trails sign. Commissioners, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I would so move.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. A second, Commissioner Cambenzi.
Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, second by Commissioner Cambenzi to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. Announcements. We've got a number of opening on city boards and commissions. Surprisingly, we don't have too many on Local Development Finance Authority. We're kind of taking care of it in one fell swoop tonight, but there is one opening yet on the Local Development Finance Authority, but I believe we do have someone who's expressed an interest, and they're in process. So, Aging Services Advisory Committee, we need one representative whose interest or experiences in the healthcare industry. Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, we have 5 openings. Board of Zoning Appeals, 3 openings. Harbor Advisory Committee, 3 openings, and it would be really good if some citizens would come forth on that, because the Harbor Advisory Committee is going to be undertaking a lot of consideration on the marinas and the marine issues, so we do need a fully staffed board, or at least 1 or 2 more, so that they don't have to be that concerned about a quorum. LDFA I already mentioned. Local Officers Compensation Commission, 3 openings. Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board, 1 opening and an alternate member. Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, 2 openings. Marquette Housing Commission, 1 opening. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Planning Commission, Police, Fire and Pension Board, all 1 opening. Sister City Advisory Committee, 6 openings. Traffic Parking Advisory, 3 openings. And the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority, are we taking care of that tonight? The 1 opening? Yes, sir. Okay. Well, that won't be open if we do it tonight, so. I encourage citizens to volunteer. Like I've said before, there's a nice application online. You can fill it out. It's a PDF file that you can actually type into, and you can email it to the city, sign it electronically, so you don't even have to leave your computer to do that. So I encourage people to step forward and volunteer for city boards and commissions. Okay, the next item is presentations. We have a presentation by the Peter White Public Library Board, Library Director Pam Christensen, and we have, nope, we have the chair of the board.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes. I'm
Diane
wondering
Patrick?
if I'm queued up here.
Yeah. Okay.
Shall I just enter and, oh, here we go. Found it. You're not seeing it. I'm seeing it.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. My name is Diane Patrick. I live in the city of Marquette, and I'm one of the people that has decided to volunteer for the city on this board. I'm in my 10th year, so I won't be here next year. I am the president of the board and very proud to do it. I will always say that it's a lot of work. You join a board thinking there's a monthly meeting, and you've got committee meetings, and you're always representing your city and your board when you work, even for free, for an entity. And but I would encourage anyone to please do it. One of the main reasons I think to join a board is because you find out how complicated everything is. And so then when you start complaining or wondering, you have to backpedal and find out the whole story before you can just start ranting about something. So I would encourage people to join various boards. So I'm here on behalf of Peter White Public Library. Pam Christensen, the library director, is on a biking trip. That's not a great picture of the library. There's gardens in front of it now. I just don't know why we have an old picture there, but there it is. It's not a quickie, but she's going to help you. That's okay. Thank you. Oh, I see. Okay. Now it'll scroll through. Okay. And nothing. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Our mission statement is there. I won't read it to you. It's certainly accurate and maybe a little dry because it certainly doesn't speak to how vivacious the library really is. There's so much activity there, and then you read that and think we're on top of everything. But 100 people walk through the library every day on average, and so all that's very dynamic, of course, and then you have all that energy and information flowing. But that is our mission statement. The Board of Trustees is myself. The other board members are relatively new. I think only 2 years and less for all 4 other people right now. So when I leave, we'll need someone else, of course, and then hopefully some of these other people, Dave Carlson, Cynthia Prosen, Jim Jajic, and Heidi Gould, will possibly stay for second terms too. We'll see. The administration is listed there. The usual suspects, people, of course, that many citizens know by face, if not by name. I will point out that we have 2 new librarians, Sarah and Tracy there. They are young people, just got their MLSs from another state, and we had openings, and they decided to move to Marquette to take these professional positions. And I'm always glad when we can bring in young people who know how to bring libraries into the 21st century. Also on that list is Bruce, and it says he's our CERC director, but he's also now our deputy director, and he also has a real grip on libraries and what's needed to move them along. We have 39 employees, 13 of which are full-time, variety of people with 6 members having their master's degrees, and of course we'd always like to increase that given money in the budget. Well, this speaks to just the population of various townships that support and enjoy the library. Marquette, of course, having the most population, with Chocolate next, Marquette Township next, and then the other townships moving on down the line. Not all of these are tax supporters of the library, but we certainly have quite a few people that buy cards if they don't have a millage. This speaks to how many cards there are and how many people come through the library. The cards give us a concrete idea of who's using the materials, but what we don't do is we don't charge for our programs, most of which happen at night, not always. So, and we don't card people to come into our programs. So we actually have no idea how many people are, from any area are coming through the library, but people so support it and appreciate it that we've just chosen to open up the programming at night for everyone, regardless of whether they pay to support the library or not. A variety of programs, children especially. You might know that there's a summer reading program this summer called Fizz Boom Zoom Bang something. It's got a science emphasis, and there have been many, many studies that show that children that read and do math and practice their other studies during the summer do much better when they come back to school in the fall. Plus, they're having fun doing it. More summer reading programs, lots of music at the library. Primetime family reading time. This is a critical national program that we offer to families who may not have grown up using libraries or bringing their children. When you hear someone say that they never thought to read to their child, then you know that you're doing something right if they're coming to the library. Pet Partners is kind of hilarious. I mean, the kids come in and they read to these dogs. It's really it's really sweet. Sometimes the dogs fall asleep, but it doesn't seem to matter. It's really it's proven effective for children who are shy about reading to grown-ups or adults who might be judgmental. Teens are always a hard group to pull in and galvanize. Mary Schneeberger in the Children's Services Department does a great job with both middle school and high school students. We have an area for teens in the library that you will notice on the first floor with booths and posters and just kind of a different space for them because they like to have their own space. At Bollywood is for the grown-ups. The food is fabulous. The movies are kind of wild and crazy, and obviously there's dancing. Author visits, numerous visits from local authors, from national authors, some international authors, a variety of people speaking on a variety of subjects. It's just totally enlightening. Film series, the library has a vast DVD collection, and Margaret Boyle, our program director, does a great job of putting movies in front of people during various times of the day, including a dinner and a movie option where you bring your own meal and can watch a film, and many, many of them are family-oriented. Your Mind Matters is a month-long program that we've done in May for maybe 7 years now. This program is one of the main reasons that we won the National Medal Honor Award maybe 4 years ago, because it is experts come and citizens come and we talk about mental health and mental illness, and it's really helped a lot of people. Classes, computer classes, can't say enough about those. There's about 100 computers in the library that people can use, but the phenomenon now that's happening is that people are bringing their individual tablets and devices into the library and walking up to a reference librarian and saying, well, how do I use this? So I find that the staff spends a lot of time one-on-one with people and their devices, and we're trying to organize that better so that maybe we could have classes on individual readers and tablets too. The people in the basement mending the books, cataloging the books, getting them out. I can't say enough about their expertise. People at the CERC desk are great. Reference desk are so knowledgeable and friendly. It's amazing the questions that they receive every day. We have a Friends group, Friends of Peter White Public Library, and they have a used book sale twice a year, donation-based book sale. And actually, they give a lot of money to the library. And the administration is in charge of so many things. There's those 100 computers, or at least a sampling of them. The grounds are beautiful. A lot of it is done by volunteers. And Stan and his crew, and I just can't say enough of how beautiful it is. Often in the summer, I'll see people taking wedding pictures on the front of the library now, and perhaps even getting married on the steps, and people hanging out outside when the weather's decent, and it really does look stately and friendly and accessible. We have a cafe in the basement of the library. We've had that space for about 13 years, and now we have a new person running it, and his name is Andrew Sear. He's calling it Palladino's, and I guess I'd have to say it's kind of fresh food fusion if I were going to term it anything. He tries to source food locally and has great offerings and great coffee. This might be a boring page to a lot of people, but I think this is the page that really matters fundamentally to all of us who help run the library. Of course, the city of Marquette has always been dedicated to supporting Peter White Public Library. You'll notice that second come our township contracts. We have 6 townships right now who contribute to Peter White, and tomorrow night Jim Jajic and I are going to Powell Township, and we're hoping to put the millage on the ballot, their November ballot. We lost by 9 votes 2 years ago, and so many people have come forward to say, please, try us again. So we have a small but mighty committee of people up there, and we're going to try it again. And then the third one is really worth remarking on because it's fundraising, grants and trusts. And you might not think that'd be 10% of our budget, but it is. People are extraordinarily generous to the library. I think they like to support a winner. And they know that the programs and the services are just there for everyone. So we have people who give anonymously, vast amounts of money. People leave money to us in their wills. People leave us boxes of books. They leave us paintings. They leave us tea sets. They give us many, many things. But, and some people give $10, and I know that's extremely generous from their household, and people give us $1,000, and that's amazing too. So 10% of our budget is actually from people giving us money, or us writing grants or trusts. And then we have the usual suspects of fines and services and penal fines. State aid is held well with our current governor. And the Friends of the Library, I mentioned earlier, they give us about $8,000 a year based on those book sales. Our expenditures are mostly the personnel, of course. You wouldn't have that place functioning without their expertise. Operating expenses are large. One of the current things that we're undertaking is trying to, now that the building's 13 years old, we're looking at trying to retrofit some of the lights and try to get our utility costs down. Anybody that lives in the city knows that their electricity is going up times 3 years, and we're trying to get a handle on the lights and other aspects of heating and cooling the building. We've got utilities. You can see how much that does cost a year, so that's what we're trying to lower. And materials is 4th on the list, and I'm sure Mike Coyne will have something to say about this. But material budgets are tricky now, not only because maybe the money isn't quite there, but because of electronic offerings too. So yes, we can buy books, magazines, and other materials, but people also want downloadable books and other electronic offerings. So that has become part of our materials budget also. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Coyne?
I knew it.
Did you say, I knew it? Is that what you said? Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service of 10 years. That's a long time, and you've really, along with the board, helped the library grow and continue to be excellent. And a comment about materials, I'm always bugging you about buy more books and spend more, but the reality is, I have never, ever gone there and asked for a book and not be able to get it, if not through the Michigan Interlibrary loan. So even though you don't have it, you get it, and it's free for the user.
That's right.
And I'd just like to make one other comment. People take this library for granted, and you, as you know, you had the Consul General from Croatia here to open the exhibit at the library about Croatia, and she spent a morning with us. And she is a very spectacular human being, and in growing up in a war-torn area as a little girl, she finally got a job as a young adult and wanted to buy a book on economics. And the book cost half of her monthly salary. There were no libraries. And she was a very brilliant person, went to Harvard Law School, and came to Harvard and went to the library and said, could I buy this particular book? And I said, why? Well, just, it's on the shelf. And she was just so overwhelmed by the public free library system that we have that in this country we take for granted, that in many countries you just can't even buy a book. You can't even afford it. So it really is a great resource. And
That's right.
Yeah.
I think libraries continue to be a cornerstone of our democracy. Maybe the 20th century was the golden age of libraries, But they are changing nationally, of course, and in the Western world with electronics coming on and becoming like the third place for many people, homework and the library. I've often joked that I would like to be buried there, actually. So, you know, I live there. I spend a lot of time at the programs and working for the library, and it's evidence that many, many people do. So, thanks for your comment.
I find that a little strange about
Well,
being
it could be a moneymaker, though, Mike.
Do you have like a personal section you want to be buried in, or never mind. One other about taking advantage of this. I had this morning. I participated with a dear friend of StoryCorps, which was, guess what, at the library, and the two women that were there were from Brooklyn, and without prompting, they just started saying, "What a great library! I can't believe this, and I can't believe all the people that are coming in." And, you know, we stood there, and it was just this constant stream Monday morning, just people. So
Great.
it really is a great place, and so thank you.
I think so, too. I think it's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Commissioner Campana? We have one more. Dan? Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
A quick one, easy one.
Go to
And the library is a wonderful addition, you know, or a wonderful part of Marquette County. On the balance sheet that you showed, you had $100,000 to the plus. Where does it go? What do you do with it?
It goes in our general fund.
You have a general fund, and
Oh, we do have a general fund, and then we have a Carol Paul Memorial Trust Fund, too. Carol Paul, you know, a citizen, historic citizen of Marquette. She endowed the library with a fund that had to be just for music. But she was so wide-ranging in her thinking that, of course, when she endowed it, and I can't tell you the year, it's been decades and decades, that she didn't know about CDs or, you know, what we would need musically. So we are able to use the Carol Paul endowment for our music needs, and it's a very general definition of music. But yes, we have a general fund. We just did our budget. And, you know, for the coming year, the library, this new building's 13 years old now, and as I said, I think critically looking at retrofitting it is probably where some of our surplus will go this coming year, and hopefully to materials also. If Powell Township comes on board, we're looking at maybe $6,000 to $8,000 more coming into the library too, and then that'll be wonderful. But we can't count on that quite yet.
do you normally have positive figures, balance sheet? You don't run into
It
deficit?
depends on what time of year you would ask me that question and how the money is flowing, both from the city and from the townships. But, yeah, Pam Christensen and Rick Orr, who's our finance director, who seems to have some sort of natural grip on this complex budget, they run a tight ship, I think.
Okay.
I think the board's pretty critical about dollars and cents, too. But they know what's coming in, you know, and they know how to hedge their bets. The tax tribunal that many of us have heard about, of course, with on the West End especially, and in 2 other counties in Michigan, that'll impact the library in a large way if that goes through. I think we'll lose about I think we'll owe Marquette Township about $36,000 if that goes through, and then we'll lose money too. Please don't quote me on that, but I know that it'll impact us greatly. So you always have to have a bit of a fund budget because you just don't know what's coming down the pike.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Well, I just wanted to add my thanks to you personally for all the work you've done there, all the good work, and certainly for everybody on the board. And more importantly, I think, on a wider sense, the entire library, because it truly is a gem of the city in 1,000 ways. And thank you for help polishing that gem and keeping it vibrant in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from any of the commissioners? Thank you, Ms. Patrick. The next presentation we have is on the Multi-Jurisdictional Recreation Authority feasibility study by Ms. Nicole DeWald and Ms. Jess Jones.
All right, good evening, commissioners. So we are here to present the final draft, which you all have a copy of. This is a study that was done with the 3 different municipalities, City of Marquette, Marquette Township, and Chocolate Township. What we'll give you here is just a brief overview, play-by-play, and a timeline. We'll get through the slides pretty quickly, and then we can have time for questions, of course. We would joke that, and especially I don't think this joke will apply as much knowing that you've been working with the library for 10 years. I was going to joke that we were a lot younger when we started this committee. I still had a baby in diapers, and it was 2 years ago. So started out really excited about recreation. I'm pretty sure I volunteered for this thinking I was going to talk about just like the ski hill and parks and things like that, but it became much, much more an enjoyable educational process. So back in July 2012, we were appointed to or volunteered for the ad hoc committee. We were formed. Nikki and I were the Marquette City representatives. Our objectives were laid out that are on page 2 of your study, if you look. So there were 4 main objectives, and the main idea there was that we were going to look at the feasibility of a recreation authority in with those 3 municipalities. So it began that we started to look at everything from ballparks and soccer fields, Lakeview Arena, anything, any park, any playground, really looking at sort of brick and mortar assets that each of the jurisdictions had in hopes that there might be an opportunity for a rec authority within some of that. So August to December, we did data collection. We sifted through everyone's master plans, recreation master plans. We did an inventory. All those inventories are listed in the back of the study in the last 10 pages there of all the recreational assets. During this time period, Marquette City also secured grant funding so that we were able to hire on a consulting group. And then in January 2013, I remember very much so sitting in that meeting, and we were all sort of looking at each other, just feeling like what we came in thinking, and then after we did the months of research, we were feeling differently, because what we were learning was our citizens from each jurisdiction were feeling as though trails, paved, non-paved, motorized, natural, and more are really at the top of the list. So again, when we were thinking about it in terms of brick and mortar, it was sort of like we had to set that aside for a moment, really listen to the voice of the people. And then what floated to the surface there was the Heartwood property. The Heartwood property contains already miles and miles of trails, multi-use trails at that. So we kind of said that, well, this is an opportunity with the Heartwood property bordering jurisdictions that this land itself could potentially become the rec authority. So our focus shifted a bit in that direction, again, based on the data. So then we decided to move forward based off that, and that's where we brought in that consultant who would help us with that feasibility study. So September 13 through April 14, we worked with LIA, so Land Information Access Association, hired on. Yes, thank you. And we started out with a stakeholder survey. So we had a meeting in September 2013 where we invited many, many different groups and entities from all the different areas, all the 3 jurisdictions, everybody from the YMCA to NMU to, again, soccer groups, a lot of different trail users, so everything from equestrian to kayaking groups to, of course, Snow Cayman On group. They all came and they were able to give input, give feedback. Beyond that, LIA actually went out and they worked with groups that maybe weren't able to attend the meeting, so we really felt like they got thorough questioning through this whole area and in that piece of it. They presented a draft of the plan. When the draft is presented, we were able to give feedback. We had a lot of wonderful support from city staffers. They were able to guide us, and if we had questions for them, we had to get more information. If we had to get different stats or statistics and bring it back, each jurisdiction did that in their part, and we brought it forward, submitted that information, would look for the redraft. That second redraft occurred in February. At that point, we were able to have a work session with all of you. Felt like that was a very successful work session. We got a lot of wonderful input, and again, different parties in attendance there. We were able to put that all together and produce a final study. So within the final study, there are the recommendations on page 40. They're listed very briefly here. So with that, the recommendations being that, focus on trails. I think that was something that we could have all agreed on, work together. Next steps in this would be to develop a business plan. The business plan, a funding vehicle, the details of that are not included in this study. The study, again, just presenting the idea that in theory, we feel that there's some value here. Leverage existing community strengths and interests. I think we're already doing that. Investigate conservation easement for recreational portions of Heartwood Forest land and property at point when property is conveyed. Again, these are just recommendations. So Nikki and I are in support of the study that took place, but not necessarily in support of maybe all the recommendations. And so leaving you with the idea here that there's still work to be done. We would, of course, commend you for staying with us through this process, for going through the work session with us. We really appreciate that. Definitely would say that there is opportunity in all of this. The Heartwood property is a beautiful piece of land, again, that is already being used by so many, regardless of where they're from, where they pay taxes. We go into that woods and you don't know where the borders lie. So the goal here is that you would protect that, you would add value to the local economy, the local region. We also feel like if there's an opportunity to create the rec authority with the Heartwood property, and if there is to do so, and we do that successfully, potentially moving beyond that, you could take in more into that scope. So you could look at those brick and mortars, you could look at Lakeview Arena, you could look at the parks and the ball fields. There might be potential there, but we felt like this was an opportunity to start out and look at something that might be easy to expand into. So that is that.
So again, we were put forward with the task of basically being a feasibility committee to see if this project was feasible. A lot of people did a ton of hard work, so I thank everyone involved, and thanks for all your patience. And we do believe we did due diligence where it was needed. There was a lot of information to sift through, and I can imagine you guys have some specific questions, and we're here to answer them for you.
Commissioners? Commissioner Ryan?
I guess I can go back even a little before you started, and that is that we had several meetings, at least 2 and possibly 3, with representatives from the surrounding townships. And my recollection, and someone can take issue with this, but my recollection is this was initially driven by the city of Marquette with hopes that we could come together to do something on the Heartwood Forest. We got to the meeting and the discussion broadened considerably to include other aspects of recreation. So we kind of went off in that direction, even though, in subsequent individual discussions with the townships, it did not appear they were willing to step up in the degree that I felt would be necessary, to become equal to what the city of Marquette was doing. So then when your group was formed, you wound up kind of back where we started, as far as I'm concerned, on the Heartwood Forest. But there was, some indication at one point that perhaps some grants could be available to reimburse the city of Marquette for some of the money it spent on this land. But apparently that proved not to be true. Is that correct?
That is correct. It has to be a nonprofit.
Okay. So that, that was kind of a big concern for me, or a big issue for me, because even though I agree with you, that at least I want to see a majority of that land preserved. There is some land that could and should be developed. But, as far as bringing this together in a recreation authority, I'm not sure what would drive that. What would the other units of government contribute to make it worthwhile for the city of Marquette to consider that?
Well, and I think that's where everything floated to the top as trails. Marquette Township and Chocolate Township are very interested in grabbing a hold of the economy, what we're offering as far as trails. Chocolate doesn't necessarily have anything to do, they don't touch the Heartwood land, but they have interest in connectability. And, you know, with the governor's latest trails initiative and things like that, this just kept on coming up to the top. And it seemed like the first step with the idea of a recreation authority and then moving on to brick and mortar and sharing of baseball fields and lime and such like that.
Well, again, and don't take anything I say as critical of your efforts, because I think you've worked hard on this, and I appreciate that. But I guess the question becomes, what will the others bring to the party? The city of Marquette has put $5 million into the land acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
And even under the best of circumstances, we're not going to get much of that back, even if we develop some of the land. What would the other units of government bring to this effort?
I definitely can't speak necessarily to their standpoint on it, but I think that's where if there was a next step or action beyond this, it could be the more of a detailed look at a business plan scenario. So it would be to explore funding vehicles. Definitely, even as a city citizen here, I don't really want to advocate for millage is to pass, but that's an option. Mm-hmm. Again, the idea, and I agree again from the city's standpoint, is you want something that makes sense for us. You want it to be something sustainable. Additionally, if there was an opportunity to lessen the amount that we are paying on a note, that might be out there. But again, I think that those would all have to be explored probably in more detail with the other jurisdictions.
Just one additional comment, and that is, I think I'm fair in saying that this commission, as part of its strategic long-term planning, has identified looking at the Heartwood Forest and making some decisions on our own as far as what we're going to do there. There are some basic decisions regarding areas to be preserved, and I think generally we followed the recommendation of the ad hoc committees and the Planning Commission. But there is some area that was not clearly defined. It was kind of left open for further review, and then there was some area for potential development. So I think those are also issues the city wants to consider going forward. I won't still be around, but I think that's going to happen probably in the next year or so. I'll let somebody else get a chance here.
Commissioner Coyne?
Well, I'd like to thank you for all the work you did. The inventory alone was extremely important. That needed to be defined. I would ask the city manager a question for a moment. This study was in part funded by a grant matched by the city and the townships. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Am I correct? Is it $12,500 the city paid? Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And interestingly, in talking with Chocolate Township, their whole budget for recreation was not even that. And Marquette Township, how much did they put in? Did they put in $12,500? $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to set just so the public can understand why we did this. Is the reality is this coming year we are short $2 million because of all the things that are happening to us. And we are spending a huge amount of money on recreation, and 43% of the people who use our facilities do not pay any taxes at all. That's why this study was done. Mm-hmm. And the reality, what you came to, is this is not, it isn't working. That's just not going to happen. That then leads the city having to do other options to try to recoup the tremendous expense that we provide for 43% of the people who use our recreation facilities, and for townships who have budgets that are much less than even we paid for the study. So, and the other reality is trails are a good idea, but in the work session, to remind you, it wasn't all wonderful because the iron ore trail system said, I'm not sure we want to participate in this. So even though the idea is great and the townships say, oh, we want to do this and we want to do that, when you actually go to the trail systems, that isn't going to work either. So I think this was very frustrating for me, but also it was educational in that the city needs to do something to cover the costs of recreation, particularly because of the lessened budgets, and you were very helpful. I'm not sure the trail system, even though it was a common interest, it's a common interest, but the money isn't there, nor is the cooperation justifiably from the iron ore trail system saying, we don't necessarily want to do this. So we're kind of, it wasn't not helpful because there's a lot of information here, but I think I share your frustration as to an answer which we didn't get, and that's an answer. I mean, it's not an answer, it is an answer, and we've got to then, I think, as a group of elected people, try to figure out different ways in which to pay for this, and we're going to be doing that in the next month and the next year, because we're financially strapped right now, and I don't mean to be critical, that's just reality that you're facing and that we're facing, and the townships are facing, and they can't continue to have a free ride, basically.
Thank you for that explanation. I do think that that helps frame everything for everyone in the room at this moment. And it was a frustrating study, but there is data here that we can go back to.
Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
First of all, thank you for the great work done. I mean, it is a volume of data that will certainly be useful. But that leaves me to a number of problems. And one of the problems is that some of the data is not accurate. And that if we accept it as not being accurate, in other words, if we accept the report as is with inaccurate data, then we are in effect endorsing that. And then in effect, as the next commission seats and whatever they should choose to do with this report, they're working now with information that is inaccurate. We pointed out, I think, much of this type of information during the work session, but it wasn't corrected, or it was corrected in somewhat of an obscure manner. And for example, and not to parse this thing down word by word, but to give you some opportunities for it. One of the big concerns we had, as I recall, was that the real recreation costs in Marquette was not adequately captured. Mm-hmm. And I see that it still isn't adequately captured. We do have Exhibit 1.2, for example, that identifies us in 2014 as spending about $5.3 million. And yet when I look at the tables, I see for 2013 we're being credited for about $1.3 million. Now, obviously, we didn't invent $4 million in a year. So things like the operating subsidy for Lakeview Arena, for example, were not included. Things like the capital costs for the marina that we're building up at Presque Isle were not included. The buyout cost every year, the loan cost every year for Heartwood Forest wasn't included. And these are all we can parse. Well, that's capital, that's not, but you're paying it every year, and it is part of the total recreation value package. So with that kind of inaccurate data, it really gives me concern. I also noticed continued references to the city selling the Heartwood property or Heartwood property to the township. But that has never been the position of this commission. We've discussed many things by individual commissioners, and gee, I wish we could, wouldn't it be nice? Mm-hmm. But that's not an official position. And the implication that you're almost giving in the report is that the city desires to sell the property to the township. And of course, we've never done that. We've never had a vote. We've never come to that issue. I have some question about the survey that the township did regarding everybody's interest in buying Heartwood, mm-hmm. from the standpoint that, was it a scientific survey? Where's the data? Where's the backup to it? Where's the information in the appendix that would lead me to understand that it is a scientifically accurate survey and that that is correct? Mm-hmm. It's simply numbers that somebody put in here. And that gives me pause. And I'm not accusing anybody of any underhandedness, just that if you don't have that type of information in a report, especially one that Leah's put together, I have to question the entire document. Mm-hmm. The item perhaps of overwhelming concern, at least in my mind, and Commissioner Coyne touched on it, is the whole idea with the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. These people stood up and said, we don't want any part of you. They sent you a letter that said, we don't want any part of you. They couldn't have been more clear, and yet there it is that, in effect, we're going to pay for all this by using the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. I think that is an egregious part of this report that I simply can't vote to accept it based on that. And having been a member of the trail when it was initially being formed, and what the long-term outlook for that trail is, they've got 20 years to run at least. And it has again, I'm just don't understand why we're dealing with issues of fact like that when they should not, in fact, they should have been certainly chopped out of the report. I pontificated enough, and thank you for your time, and thank you for the great energy that went into this, because it was tremendous.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Kambezi?
Well, I too would like to thank you for your time, and certainly I think you're seeing that we're forced to look at this on a totally different level than what we put you guys in in charge of. And I do apologize for that because it is difficult, and I think there are a lot of great aspects of this report. It certainly gives us a clear picture of what's out there and what our assets are and what people want and who's using it. I agree with Fred. There are some things in here I think that should be changed before we approve this, and hopefully there's a way that we'll maybe get to coming back to this. But I do want to mention one thing. I was one of the lone votes against not necessarily settling the tax tribunal dispute with the township, but certainly part of that agreement was relabeling the surplus property in the township as recreation, not because there are trails going through there, and certainly a lot of it can be recreation, but what that does is it devalues the land even more. And so, to me, in looking at that and looking at selling it, that did me a disservice in terms of trying to work with them to sell it, because one, we can't sell the land for less than what it's worth. However, now I feel like we're in a stronghold where if all of that land is just to be conserved, one, why would we sell it for less? But two, what are our options going forward? And I think for me, I'm not willing to take a huge loss on this land. So I think there are some things that we need to work out. I think the report even said that it would be wise for the city to actually carry out our planning of this entire land. And I'm hoping that's what we're moving towards, because I think once we get a clear picture of what we have, what we want to sell, if we want to sell anything, I think then that's when we move forward with these partnerships. But, the trails are there. I'm happy that people are using them, but I think the city needs to do a little more legwork before we get to coming up with a rec authority. So that's my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Kambezi. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Coyne?
I'd like to kind of point out, this sounds sort of simplistic, but I think it's very important. This was the Multi-Jurisdictional Recreation Authority feasibility study. They're not presenting us with the Multi-Jurisdictional Recreation Authority plan. Thank you for the feasibility study. And to me, it's not feasible right now. Thank you. Whether it's accurate or inaccurate or not is I think, correct. It's not all accurate. But I think, and we just experienced this with the Founders Landing arguments about long-term plans and master plans and city plans. And you kind of have to follow that. And this isn't a plan. It's a feasibility study. And to me, it says it ain't feasible right now, and it's not accurate. And do we even have to? It might be good to say we accept it, but we don't think it's terribly accurate, and it doesn't seem to be feasible. And then 3 commissions later, where they're not saying, well, it's in the study here. Well, no, it is, but it's a feasibility study. It's not a plan, and that's different. And I think that is helpful to you because of all the work you did. Here's the feasibility study. I get the message. It isn't feasible right now. So why do we have to? We shouldn't approve it. We should say thank you.
Commissioner Ryan?
I just wanted to add quickly, there's been references made a couple of times to the Iron Ore Heritage Authority, and I don't speak for them, but I think it should be pointed out that they didn't find any fault with this plan. They basically said this is not our responsibility. We have truly a multi-jurisdictional authority with many other townships, and for them to get involved with this plan would not be appropriate for their organization. So they weren't passing judgment on the study, simply on the fact that they did not see a role for them in implementing it.
Commissioner Coyne?
In other words, they said, it's not feasible, right? That's what they said.
Well, they didn't say that.
Well, sure they
They
did.
said, we're not going to be part of it because this doesn't fit in our jurisdiction of
Okay, well,
responsibility.
in other words, then to me, that means it's not feasible, their
Commissioner Reynolds?
My only comment is I agree with most of the commission on their comments, and I just want to thank you both for all the work you did. And also, I hope that after this ad hoc stuff is done, I hope you decide to join some kind of more city committees, because you guys, I know we turned you down, but you did some good work, and you guys are very respected in the community, so that's all.
Any other commissioners? Any other final comments? I guess I'd like to thank you for your efforts. I know we extended your tenure, and we certainly appreciate you be willing to help us out. I've got a lot of the same feelings on the rest of my fellow commissioners on this study. I was hoping, I was a big fan of the Recreation Authority when we first started meeting with the townships, and I guess we probably could have gone to a business plan right away and said, well, either this is going to work or it's not going to work. And you know, trails are certainly a really important part of our recreation program, but it's just you know, one part of it, and there's a lot else that I wish, you know, would the group would have focused on more, a comprehensive one. But I guess the consensus wasn't there. But we certainly appreciate your efforts, and we do have some vacancies on other. I think they're a little easier, but and there may be something that goes on further with this too.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But actually tonight we're not really going to take any action. You made a presentation. We're not. We don't have an action item as such, and there may be one that comes back. So, any other comments? Any last questions? Anything else you want to add finally, or?
Yeah, I'll just add, on behalf of Nikki and I, thank you for saying thank you. Feels kind of funny to say you're welcome because I'm not sure on that. But I just want to add a couple of things just so it's on the official record. On page 44, there is an opportunity where it lays out with the Act 200 of Section 2. There is an opportunity where two jurisdictions could work together to form an authority. That is one option. There might be within sending something to a Parks and Rec Advisory Board or a committee, there might be something within that so that there could be a next step. I agree so much with what Commissioner Coyne said in regards to this being such a multi-layered issue. Again, as a city taxpayer, I come from the angle of the idea that we love having the options for things like Lakeview Arena and our marinas and everything that falls under and within Parks and Rec. But the idea or the thought that that's putting us into the red or it's putting us into the hole and we're not necessarily getting cooperation or assistance or help with that, it's kind of tough. So I think that if we, as a whole community or in a region, rec authorities were so fun to learn about because it's such a great concept. And again, the idea that that can be successful and is successful in other places in the country, in the state, I think that that could still be an option somewhere, somehow. It doesn't have to be with Rec Authority, and it doesn't have to be even in the way that maybe we're thinking right now and today. But I think that if we continue to work together and we kind of tackle different issues and think outside boxes, which I think that this commission is doing very much so already, there might be a way to solve one issue that could help alleviate another. So again, it's fun to think that the voice of the people is saying trails, but we still need to plug holes on the other side of it. So I think, again, I agree with all of you, if that's even possible.
Very nicely said, Joe.
Leave you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, we're now at the third item, boards and committees. We have 6 appointments to the Local Development Finance Authority and 1 appointment to the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority. What is your pleasure with these appointments? Commissioner Ryan?
I would move the appointments be approved as presented for Mark Canale, Fred Tacolini, Daniel Mizuki, Elizabeth Kotler, Robert Kulishek, and Rosemary Smith to the Local Development Finance Authority for terms as described.
Okay.
And also, let's leave it at that for starters.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, second by Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse, to appoint all these people to the Local Development Finance Authority for the terms proposed. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Just to explain perhaps that this is like the beginning of any board. We appoint people for different terms so that eventually they will all expire at the proper times as we go forward. And certainly we're very fortunate to have an outstanding group of people who step forward on fairly short notice to be willing to fill these important assignments.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Only to add my
Further?
thanks.
Okay. You've heard the motion. All in favor of the motion say yes.
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 Anyone opposed to the motion say no. The motion is passed unanimously, and all these people are appointed to the Local Development Finance Authority as proposed. We have one more, Ms. Amy Manning to the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority, and I don't have the exact term information in front of me. You have it somewhere. Right here. Yeah. Okay, that would be for a term ending July 1st, 2017. What's your pleasure with this, Commissioners? Commissioner Coyne?
So moved that we appoint. Amy
Okay,
Manning.
is there a second? Commissioner Reynolds?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, second by Commissioner Reynolds to appoint Amy Manning to the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority for a term ending July 1st, 2017. Anything further, Commissioner Coyne?
No.
Anything further, Commissioner Reynolds?
No.
All in favor of the motion, say yes.
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 Anyone opposed to the motion, say no. The motion is approved unanimously. We now come to the section citizen comment, public comment. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address prior to making your comments.
Dave Brassard, 395 Mesk Avenue. As you all, I'm sure, know why I'm here, about my boat slip rental. I thought I kind of expected I'd hear from somebody from the commission or the town, city manager, which I haven't, heard nothing, zero. I did talk to other boaters at the Cinder Pond Marina, the other marina. They all kind of agreed with the rule. It was a nasty one, and they think it's unfair. I haven't heard anybody thought that it was right. I do have a gentleman here with me that knows more about this, what I'm going through, more about the rule itself. We had sat down and talked about it during the 4th of July, and he asked me if he could come here and if he could speak for me. As you all know, I get a little hyper up here. So I'd rather just go sit, leave this at rest, and let you just do what you got to do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Brassard.
Good evening. My name is Jim Dunn. I'm at 3120 M28 East. Now, I've been 47 years living in the city of Marquette. And over those years, I've had an opportunity, 13 years of sitting on the Harbor Advisory Committee and 3 years of sitting as chair. I spoke with Dave Brassard, who asked me to come in and give him some support and just share information, what I know about what happened with the rule. So I'm going to try to make a long story short. But there was back when I was chair, we had established a home port rule that allowed people to leave the marina for up to 2 years to give an opportunity to relieve some of the pressure from Presque Isle as it was getting ready to close, and also to give an opportunity for people to rotate through because there's a waiting list. This year, when prior to signing up for the slip, I had thought the rule had existed, and once I received the application, I went in and looked for the rules for the marina. And if you look at the application process, it states that you have read the rules of the marina. In all the years that I was sitting on the HAC committee, we always prorated if somebody had left early. I had then found out that the home port rule was not in the marina rules, so I called the office, the Parks and Recs office, to find out that that rule was never entered, and a new rule, they were instructed, the office staff was instructed to write in a new rule. And it's under the Waterways Commission, under the Harbor Slip Management Policy, which is a guideline. It's never really existed as part of the Marquette rules. She indicated to me that she was told to try to get it included prior to the slip assignments and money being collected. Well, I went ahead and I sent in my money. I ran the rules. That rule did not exist. The rule didn't exist until after April 15th, after the money has already been paid. I had called and talked to Carl Zuger, and he had shared information that, yes, this is something that was new, that the Harbor Advisory Committee had looked at it back in 2013 and 2014, and that I could find it in the minutes. Well, I went back and I searched all the minutes. I found nothing as far as those rules being talked about in the Harbor Advisory Committee. And recently, I just ran the rules again under the same heading in the website of the Marina Rules Final 2011. I found that when I printed it this time, I found two revisions that seemed to be added.
Mr. Dunn.
Okay, so that's my story. I cut it short, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Hello, my name is Mike Beck, registered voter 1005 Alloway in the city of Marquette. I want to address the board tonight about our newly appointed Local Development Finance Authority Board. I see we've appointed 6 members to the board. None of them happen to be here tonight. It is a very important authority with powers to capture taxes, or ask for condemning of property, and other fairly expansive financial liberties in the city of Marquette. So I'd like to just ask a series of questions, or perhaps just appraise the commission of some of the things in regards to the Local Development Finance Authority Act, Act 281, the state of Michigan, that you may not all be cognizant of. As of tonight, the board is not yet complete. The Local Development Finance Authority Act requires that there also be a member appointed from the county, and also that the bodies that have taxes collected in the Local Development Finance Authority boundaries would also have 2 members appointed. And if you look at other local development finance authorities around the state, they have 2 members seated from the school boards from which they collect taxes. And I do believe the plan is to collect taxes from the school board. So if we do intend to have this board seated and operating, we should also approach the school board and the county for their representatives. I also understand that this board is active as of August 1st. And at that time, I would expect that according to the law, they would come back to the City Commission with their policies and rules of procedure and have those approved by the Commission. And then at that time, that would be the time at which they could begin to entertain a smart zone satellite with the Michigan Tech Economic Corporation. Because I wonder who's been standing in for this authority prior to, as of yet, they have not yet been seated. Another question I have for the City Commission is, has anyone from the city done due diligence on the Local Development Finance Authority or the MTEC up in Houghton Hancock? Because if we have, we would realize that perhaps there have been significant deficiencies in internal controls or no segregation of accounting duties at the Local Development Authority in Houghton Hancock. And this would be perhaps something that would cause me some concern about taxpayer dollars. And I would hope that we do not engage in a course of loose accounting controls at our Local Development Finance Authority as well. I look back on the calendar, it appears that in January of 2013, Management Analyst Jen LePage and City Manager Bill Vita submitted a local units of government consolidation plan with the state of Michigan, where we would perhaps save $200,000 next year. This has been going on for perhaps over 18 months of this plan, but it's unclear where we will be saving $200,000.
Finish up, Mr. Beck.
Thank you. So before we engage too far upon this Local Development Finance Authority tax capture plan, I would just hope that our City Commission asks our, as of yet, active Local Development Finance Authority to apply due diligence, to appoint a full board, to come back with the procedures, and then begin the process of the Smart Zone satellite. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Matt Lutenberger, 1406 Garfield Road. I came up originally just for one question. It's related to last week, but I wanted to point this out. The trails that everybody was talking about tonight, and you asked for how do we pay for this. I would have to say the Ore to Shore and the No Cayman on races, both the summer and winter races, are sold out nearly every year. That alone brings in over 1,000 participants alone. Not families, not friends, but 1,000 participants for those 2 weekends. That alone should give us pause to say we need to keep our trails up and running. I just want to point out we have well over 1,000 visitors every summer and every winter on just those 2 events. So it is part of our recreation. It is part of our culture. People come from all over for it. So on a general note also, and it's kind of an overarching thought, how do we know you're listening is our real question. I mean, most of these questions, most of these comments, especially from this gentleman here, we don't understand if you've heard us. So my question relates to last week. How did MGH and We Energies take any suggestions? Have you guys presented a suggestion about moving locations to your authorities? I mean, Mr. Coyne, you asked us to visit the helicopter meeting. Did anybody bring it up during that meeting? I'm sure commissioners are present. People like us, we have to work. We have other tasks. Right now, I'm heading down to Lansing to talk to some people about windmills. So I was wondering if anybody has heard from MGH or We Energies or even the local power plant about moving things around. Thanks. How do we know you're listening?
Thank you, Mr. Lutenberger.
Good evening. My name is Walt Lindela. I'm at 437 McMillan, and I'm here tonight as the chair of the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee for the City of Marquette. I know that we're at the tail end of the agenda this evening to take a look at a final presentation or final delivery to the Commission of the Arts and Culture Master Plan, and I just want to let you know that I am here, as are several members of our committee, if you have any questions, and also to encourage you to accept the plan and move forward with it as we can get into the implementation, and also ask anybody that's listening that now would be a good time to get involved with the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, as we do have 5 vacancies at this time. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys knew we were here, and look forward to your conversations on the master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Lindela.
Frank Jeff Verito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. Someone said we have a truck route item tonight, which isn't on the agenda, nor are slopes ordinances, the gay rights item, or decriminalization of weed. In fact, only 2 business items appear on our agenda. You've wasted another perfect opportunity to address the stated needs of many people. June 30th, you moved a Dead River Corridor item to the consent agenda while 2 people had hoped to reserve time. Neby denied us our due chance to speak despite his knowledge of the mistake. That item belonged under business. The Clarks Park site plan shows a so-called Lot 7 running from the water's edge through the park's entire width, disjoining the riparian parcel from the park. The build there would diminish the aesthetic value of the riparian preserve, the preserve that you saw fit to jam through on a consent agenda. Lots 5 and 6 just downriver from Lot 7 and inland a touch protrude too far north. The buffer is grossly inadequate. Didn't you notice that on the site plan? From a spatial standpoint, it's obvious on site and senseless. Their kayak launch doesn't look contiguous to the preserve. The west end of that layout begs scrutiny and modification. We continue to document members as unwilling to interpret a site plan or show us an ability to visualize how an end result will appear in the real world, hence the boathouse and the Commons ice rink. Members are more concerned with who the proponents are than the aspects of their proposals. June 30th, Coyne said the recall is to put poison on the water and is for the most trivial thing. Ryan called the recall bad in that only one current member will be left if successful. He said a recall shouldn't hinge on one issue. Both men grossly misspoke. Land use along our lakeshore is not the most trivial thing, and the reasons for this recall extend far beyond a boathouse location, so reminiscent of the last recall. On yet another land use matter, this board failed to disseminate public input in advance of an ill-advised vote when everything was provided you to reach a sane decision. You decided ahead of the public opportunity. 6 of you totally lost sight of the value of a natural shoreline and the site's historic nature, a mini paradise that was narrowed a year ago and butchered twice previous to that. Will you leave it alone? New residents have thanked me on the street, a sign that more people are watching. Your boathouse debacle has brought more negative attention to yourselves. How can Coyne call the boathouse location the most trivial thing? I mean, that's nuttier than threatening me in the bathroom. Recalls seek to put poison on the cancer, not on the water.
You need to
when
finish
your
up,
own
Mr.
cronies
Baratow.
attend meetings in protest of your boathouse site, we all know you messed up. Even you know, as made obvious during Angeli's June 30th presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Baratow.
It was timed in advance.
My name is Craig Miller. I live at 1013 Alloway Road. In regards to the gentleman previous to this gentleman's remarks about moving things around, local power plant, I'm running for city commission, and one of my platforms was to preserve our water and electrical utility. The Board of Light and Power and the Shires Power Plant is a system that works. Our rates are a third of what We Energy customers pay, and I might add that the power plant is considered number 7, the 7th cleanest burning plant in the entire country when you compare it to all other power plants, and there are quite a few of them that burn coal. And I can tell you, as a member of the City Commission, move things around to try and change it. Not with my vote. You don't. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. And Board of Light and Power is more than not broke. It is a system that has worked very well. And as far as the recall goes, I'm going to restate what I said before. I'm glad that that thing failed. Obviously, they didn't have enough. The language was hazy, but I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it didn't get approval of the Board of Canvassers, because, quite frankly, you don't. The issue just did not rise to requiring a recall. You know, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse is right. If you have, even if it's justified, a recall does poison the political waters for quite some time, and sometimes it's not. People get removed from office for unjustified reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Good evening. Yorma Lankin, 8 Marquette Drive. The other gentleman could have come easily enough to do this. But anyways, I just wanted to thank the Commission for approving my replacement for the Landfill Authority. I've served this Commission for many years, and I'm glad that you have appointed a new person. I have no idea who the person is, so at this week's meeting I will find out how we do with it. As you well know, I was reappointed by the county, and so I represent the 22 municipalities as well as the city of Marquette in this whole 22 encounters. So the county reappointed me for a 3-year term. So I'm still a thorn on Mr. Aho's side, and will be challenging the finances and everything else that we have going on with the authority, as well as being part of the thriving recycling program that we have entered with the city of Marquette, and will be entering with the other municipalities as well, in continuing to extend the life of the landfill. On another note, I'm saddened that we have a citizen in our midst here in the chambers that constantly chastises the commission for no real good reason at all, chastise the commission before the commission even starts their proceedings, and that is just a total crime. He acts as their personal whipping boy for the commissioners, and that is just personally not acceptable. It isn't your job description, and I'm just interpreting it as my version. It should not be your job description to listen to the malarkey prior to getting to the commission and starting your proceedings. That person should have more respect for U.S. commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln.
This is my own comment. Jim Dunn again. I just wanted to mention one thing. I know that
You've already spoken once.
I spoke for Dave.
You spoke.
Oh, I can't speak again?
Sorry.
Okay, I'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have items A through D and F through G. E we have taken off. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
I motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Ryan?
I do have a
Okay.
question, Your Honor, as well as a second.
Okay.
Although we're removing that item, we were going to put it on the regular agenda.
We'll take it right after we approve the consent agenda.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I said,
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that we were removing it totally.
Right.
Okay. Commissioner Stonehouse, do you have anything further on the motion?
Again, routine business.
Commissioner Ryan, anything
No,
further?
nothing further.
Commissioner Reynolds?
I think we have to remove your bills payable. There's your check
Yes,
for
we
you.
do. That's correct. We have to remove my check from the bills payable, my reimbursement for the expenses to the Great Lakes Conference. Good catch. Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, items A through D and F through G, and the bills with the exception of the check to myself? All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion is passed unanimously. Now I would entertain a motion to approve the check to myself reimbursing travel expenses.
I would so move, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Coyne? It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, second by Commissioner Coyne, to approve the check reimbursing the mayor for expenses traveling to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative Conference. Anything further, Commissioners? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. Now, item 4E, which is...
Hunter, did
yes.
you abstain from that?
I have abstained, yes. So
Want the record
6
to
to...
show that.
Thank you. Yes, the motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. The next is item E. It's a request for a license to use municipal property. Do you want the clerk to read the background, or can we deal with it without further information? I guess why don't you read the background, City Clerk?
Thank you, sir. Background. Iron Ore Heritage has requested a license to use municipal property to erect an iron ore heritage trail interpretive kiosk between multi-use path and the ice rink paved open space at the Marquette Commons, 112 South 3rd Street. The area indicated for the kiosk placement is identified on the included Exhibit A map and has been approved by the Downtown Development Authority's Executive Director and otherwise meets the specifications for the intended purpose. Fiscal effect, the city would realize an annual license payment of $100 per the adopted fiscal year 13-14 fee schedule. Recommendation, approve the request. Alternatives, as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioner Ryan?
Your Honor, I was going to propose that we approve the recommendation without the $100 charge.
Okay, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Campana? Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Campana to approve the license with the Iron Ore Heritage Trail without the payment of the $100 fee. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Just, I think this is a very good project. We're part of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. The $100 isn't going to affect us or them, but I just felt that it wasn't necessary for us to charge them to put up a sign depicting something we're promoting on our property. So,
Commissioner, who seconded it? Commissioner Campana?
I feel the same way. You know, the sign will be a good thing for the city. You can always need the money, but we really don't need it this time, I feel. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cambenzi?
Can I just ask, are there any examples of groups we do charge? Can I ask staff that question?
Sure.
I'll take the best shot at an answer as I can. That's normally something the treasurer could answer. She directly deals with the payments. But I understand the question to be, could you please restate it?
Could you give me an example of other groups that pay a fee, I guess, to have a similar thing in the
That pay
city?
a fee? Some of the ones that come to mind are some of the businesses that have encroachments on the right-of-way would pay for a license for something that may be out in the right-of-way, whether it be a step or something like that, or some of the normal ones that I can think of.
Okay, but no nonprofits or nothing that...
I really can't answer that.
Okay.
The city treasurer maintains an inventory of that. It'd be really easy for her to run that.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll take it for a note and provide follow-up after.
I do know that we charge the Coast Guard $1. And the last instance of the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, we did waive the $100 license fee for their sign. I think I agree with Commissioner Ryan that they're putting the sign up for our benefit and all benefits, so why should we charge them for for doing something for our benefit? Any further comments?
Well, and my only reason for bringing it up is just to make sure that we're not doing it for one and not 5 others, but it makes sense to me then.
Anything further? Any commissioner? Hearing none, it's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Campana to waive the $100 license fee for the Iron Ore Heritage Trail to put up a trail sign. All in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone opposed say no. The motion is approved unanimously. We are now the part of the agenda which is unfinished business. We have Cinder Pond Marina Harbor Master Lease Agreement. This is the second consideration of this agreement. We can approve it tonight. City Clerk, will you read the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At the May 12, 2014 meeting, the City Commission approved the Harbor Master request for a 30-foot slip in the Cinder Pond Marina and directed the city attorney to draft an agreement with Daybreak Charters, LLC, to provide mooring field maintenance and waterfront safety response operations. The city attorney has completed the agreement, which has been agreed to by Daybreak Charters, LLC. The term of the lease is 6 months and considers, in lieu of monetary rent, provision of a combination of goods, services, and funds in an amount not less than $2,788, deemed fair market value of the premises. Fiscal effect, Cinder Pond Marina Fund revenue will be reduced by $2,788 by this action. Recommendation, approve the lease agreement with Daybreak Charters, LLC, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, what is your pleasure with this item? Commissioner Ryan?
I move we approve the lease agreement with Daybreak Charters, LLC, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Is there a second by the Commissioner? Commissioner, or Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
I will second the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Ryan, anything further on the motion?
We had a presentation by the harbor master about specific needs for this project. In the past, I think we've borrowed a police officer's boat to get the work done, and that's not a proper way to carry out our business. So we're actually trading here for something very specific, some very specific service, not a promise of things that might be. So I think it's worth pursuing.
Any other Commissioner? Commissioner Stonehouse?
My only additional comment would be it might be something we would consider doing on a multi-year basis in the future, as opposed to just year by year. But I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Regarding the contract for insurance and indemnity, I see that in the information we have, there's information about his personal insurance on the boat, but does he have liability? I mean, if he's maintaining the mooring and he doesn't have insurance to cover that issue if something happens, I don't see that in our documents. Does that company have that?
I don't know, quite honestly, if they have that. I know that they are required to have general liability insurance per terms of the lease. I can't tell you if I've seen that or not at this point.
Well, I'm not willing to vote on it until I am assured that that company has a liability policy.
There is a copy of a Fremont Insurance Company watercraft policy. There is a liability limit of $1 million.
But that's on his own boat, isn't it? It's not covering actions if he doesn't tie the knot correctly on a mooring or doesn't anchor it correctly, then the city is liable for that? I mean, that just doesn't make good sense business-wise.
I guess we would be getting a certificate of insurance, and I would think the agent wouldn't issue it if it wasn't providing our coverage. We could, I suppose, staff could check on that. Yeah.
The services that he's providing is a working platform. He is not actually putting in the mooring field equipment. All of that's done by our MPD dive team. So strictly a working platform.
Okay, that's very helpful. To me, that was not clear. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Anything further, Commissioners? It was moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse, to approve the lease and allow the mayor and city clerk to sign the lease. Anything further? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed to the motion say no. The motion passed unanimously. Okay, the next item is the Arts and Culture Master Plan. City Clerk, would you read the background information, please?
Thank you, sir. Background. On June 11, 2014, the City Commission conducted a work session to discuss the draft Arts and Culture Master Plan. The city contracted with Christine Harris of Christine Harris Connections and Tom Borup of Creative Community Builders as the lead consultants. In addition, a 25-member cultural steering committee representing a wide spectrum of arts, business, education, heritage, philanthropy, and professional sectors was formed to help guide the process. The planning approach was a comprehensive public outreach model, including engaging focus groups, interviewing key stakeholders, and conducting public meetings. 2 surveys were circulated to the public and artists, resulting in 617 and 168 respondents, respectively. A creative community inventory of cultural assets was also collected. All applicable city and county planning documents and other U.S. cities of similar size and attributes were also reviewed and considered. The consultant team qualified creative economic development, focusing on the value generated directly and indirectly by the creative sector, heritage, and quality of life. In addition to economic activity, the plan supports the motion that arts and culture serves to nurture, attract, and retain people who seek to invest in the city of Marquette. The draft plan was vetted with the Cultural Steering Committee, city staff, and key leadership. Fiscal effect: none with this action. Recommendation: approve the Master Arts and Culture Plan for the City of Marquette, incorporate into the Comprehensive Master Plan by reference, and begin the process of developing an implementation plan. Alternatives as directed by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, what is your pleasure with this item?
Didn't we have a commissioner participating in this?
Yes, Commissioner Cambenzi. We'll put it on her shoulders.
I move that we suspend the rules for discussion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made to suspend the rules. All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. The motion's passed unanimously. Commissioner Campbell, you want the floor?
Sure. Again, I think this was a project long overdue. Certainly with the change of directors, I think it was helpful to kind of take a look at what was going on in the recent past, even as far back to the last plan, which was the early 90s. And I think we just found out that there was a plan in the 70s, too, that surfaced recently. So, indeed, the city has been involved in arts and culture for a long time. What came out of this, I think, is a great plan. I think it's going to be challenging going forward, just strictly in terms of how artists work, how organizations work. But I do think it's important that as a community that we do get some sort of regional alliance going, regional direction, and certainly take care of some of the things that people really want. I think the main one that came out is a calendar, some place that all of the arts events can be posted, as well as some partnership opportunities. I mean, in the arts, you have a lot of organizations that are, running on volunteers or part-time people. You also have a lot of duplication of services, and I think this gives us a chance to actually put some direction, give these groups certainly a mechanism and support to try and figure all this out. I think we'll only be stronger if we do that. With that being said, I think, the only struggle I see is, of course, funding and what it's going to look like. But as far as a plan, I think it's great. And if no other commissioner would want to talk right now, I guess I would invite either Tina Harris or Walt to come up. Probably Walt is the chair, if he has anything else to add about the process, or his thoughts as the chair with the report coming out.
Sure, I think that would be appropriate. Mr. Linda? Do the center one.
Thank you, Commissioners. I guess that what I would certainly encourage the Commission to do is to pass and accept the plan. I do agree with Commissioner Cambenzi that there are some challenges in this, in particular with getting groups to work together that maybe, as even we saw with other presentations this evening, may be a great concept, but sometimes may be a little bit difficult to do. But I can say that in our final session of our steering committee, where we met and had the 98% of our stakeholders and committee members there, this was where the discussion of this calendar issue came up. And I firmly believe that if we would have had another hour or so with these people in the room, we would have been well on our way in getting the framework of a working calendar going. And that leads me to believe that based on the number of respondents, the number of people that stepped up, both in the business community, the arts community, and just general folks in the community who answered on the survey, this is a very popular matter. Popularity can be in our benefit to get things done. But there's also other things in the report that are some changes that will be a little bit different for how things have been done. But it is time for those things to be done and be implemented, because things aren't run the same way as they were 20 years ago or when they were in 1978. It was very interesting. There are many parallels between the three reports and same things: performance venues, performance spaces, how to get them all to work together. But I think that this in particular is the most comprehensive report that has laid out at least a reasonable approach to it. As the chair, I've carried this attitude of we have to do something to try to get the ball rolling. We may not get everybody that's a player involved right off the bat, but we'll get some, and we'll start working with them, and the others will come. We can't sit and go, well, we didn't get so-and-so, so we better wait till we get them. We take and we play ball with who shows up, and then those that see that it's working will come on board. This is a 10-year plan. We have a 3-year plan to start getting some of these initial things in place, but the staff is excited, the committee is excited, steering committee members are excited, and it's very interesting because it certainly seems to me that through this, not only was the quality of life issue that was always looked at as important with arts and culture addressed, but also the economic impact and the economic value to this community and its surrounding outlying areas of having an active and effective and enjoyable arts and cultural scene. It also did incorporate, in the terms of culture, things like the outdoor recreations ideas and trails and things along those lines. So it looks at a bigger picture than maybe some of the previous plans did. It's certainly bigger than the 91 or 92 plan or whatever it was. And I would encourage you to take the time to take it and accept it and allow us to start the process of moving forward when strike while the iron is hot.
Thank you, Mr. Lindelof. Any questions, Mr. Lindelof? Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Campbell, anything further? Or?
Well, this is the starting point. It's certainly, you know, a good document, I believe, being the commissioner appointed to it to project us forward into the future. I think it certainly puts some challenges out there, but I think the community is ready, and I think that people, at least those on the steering committee, they came together and they wanted to work together. A lot of the inventory that's done, you know, some of it isn't as detailed in here, but I think even listening to what other people had to say, even particularly about Kaufman Auditorium, well, how do you rent it or how much is it? Just having kind of a regional alliance pulling everyone together, it's amazing how much that can create conversation, open doors. So I think this definitely is putting us on the right path. Again, you know, there are some challenges, but hopefully we can, you know, work through those and move forward. So as the commissioner appointed, I would hope that we would all support this. And with that, I would like to make a motion, if I could, that we support the, I don't have it here, the Marquette Arts and Culture Plan for the City of Marquette as presented to us.
Approve would be the key word.
Approve.
Commissioner Coyne? Okay. Would the makers of the motion like to incorporate the plan into the community master plan by reference and begin the process of developing an implementation
Yes.
plan also?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything further, Commissioner Campenzi, or?
Nothing further.
Okay. Commissioner Coyne?
Yes, I have a couple thoughts. The plan by Christine Harris Connections was everything we expected and more. It was just outstanding. Sometimes they don't turn out so good, but this was just outstanding. And my thought is, you know, if you think back as a commission a year ago, this was a mess. And the only way I can describe it is chaos. It was just awful. And out of chaos often comes real progress, and this is an example of that. And I would hope that you can see, I think, the support this has, that we would get people running up who really want to get on board and go. And we have how many vacancies? 5? So, I mean, we need 5 really good people to come and get this going. And Walt mentioned the economic elements of this, and that was originally kind of resisted. You know, it's arts, it's not economy. But in this work session we had, Christine Harris, who was a really impressive person, talked about the economic impact and had an example of a woman who opened a jewelry store, who learned how to run a business, who was helped with a business plan. And the serendipity of that with the upcoming Smart Zone really has some, I think, very important things, because if there's 100 people that graduate from Northern with a graphic design degree, they all have to move, or a marketing or a business degree, or an arts in some form. The Smart Zone has some way of helping those individuals become entrepreneurs, and if they're an artist, to market their product and stay here. And interestingly, I went with the city manager to Grand Rapids to observe the smart zone there, kind of apropos to Mike Beck's comments, to see how they function, what they do. And they had never really thought of arts other than graphic design as a partner to scientific or invention. And they were very taken with that idea. So I think that's a real plus and kind of a serendipity thing that occurred. So this was a great plan, and it's going to be a real challenge, as Sarah said, to implement it. But please step up and sign up and get on board and do this, because they've got great committee members who did this with the director and this lady, and it'd be a shame to just languish it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Commissioner Ryan?
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the reasons we're not having a spirited discussion here is because we've talked about this several times. We had a work session before the plan. We had a work session after the plan. We've had a lot of opportunity to look at it, talk about it. I think some of us had some questions about the calendar and whether or not that can be done separately or should be done with someone else. But I agree with what others have said, and that is, I think a key part is this connection with the arts and business and the economy. And the fact that we had business people sitting on the steering committee, not that you have to have business people, but we're not just talking about some artists sitting around a coffee house. We're talking about a representative group from the community looking at this from a lot of different aspects. And art is part of economic development. It's certainly part of placemaking, which is a key part of creating communities today where people want to live. So, I'm glad to see us moving forward, and I think this is a major accomplishment.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Any other comments, commissioners? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Happy to see it finally coming together. I think it certainly is a remarkable melding, I think, of a lot of people's thoughts, ideas, ambitions, cooperation, collaboration, and hope. Again, I have the greatest of hope for the future.
Thank you. Anything else, fellow commissioners? Well, I'd just like to say I've looked at the plan. We had the work session. I think it's a good plan. Part of the thing is begin the process of developing an implementation plan. That's going to be difficult, but I think we've got a good set of strategies and actions laid out here. There's two major overarching goals that I think are very good. And a couple weeks ago we had a briefing from our chief financial officer on the challenges we're going to have in this next year, and literally we took $2 million out of basically our capital program and kind of laid that out to one part would be brought back if this series of events happens, another part would be brought back if another series of events happens. But $2 million, we spend about $200,000 on arts and culture, which is 10% of that challenge, and there was never a hint of saying, well, let's cut out arts and culture, let's cut out senior services, or let's cut out this or that to do it. And I think that speaks well for the commission and certainly well for the community. And it shows you the value of arts and culture. And I'm excited to see this plan. I think it will provide a blueprint for the future in arts and culture. And there's going to be certainly challenges implementing it, but challenges bring a lot of unique ideas from people, and perhaps that we up here won't have to provide all the resources, but the community will come forward with the resources. Any other commissioners? Hearing none, we have a motion by Commissioner Cambenzi, a second by Commissioner Coyne, to approve the Master Arts and Culture Plan for the City of Marquette, incorporated into the comprehensive master plan by reference, and begin the process of developing an implementation plan. All commissioners in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. The last item on the agenda is comments from commissioners. We've completed our action items. We'll start with Commissioner Reynolds tonight.
Yay, I'm first. My only real comment is just regard to the Local Development Finance Authority. I just wanted to thank the individuals who stepped up to be a part of this, and the commissioners that helped recruiting these people to do this. And in turn, with the question, with Mike Beck's comments, and I think that probably our city manager would have touched on this as well, but we did request those certain groups and individuals that you mentioned to send us representatives, so hopefully we will hear from them. And I do believe that we are on the right track, and I think we will do the things that you mentioned. But we had a pretty small agenda tonight, so that's all I got.
Commissioner Ryan?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, we are waiting for the school to put forward a couple of names, and the county and Northern Michigan University has already designated a representative, so we are moving forward on that. Also, to Matt Lutenberger's question, do we listen? We do listen. I think we all listen, and we can't always react. And every idea we hear isn't something we can pick up and run with. And I'm not focusing this on you, but it's one of the frustrating things about citizen comment, where there are times you kind of wish you could have a little dialogue with people, but we'd be here all night if we started doing that. So it just doesn't work. But on the point you made about Marquette General, we have constant communication with Marquette General as to where they're going to locate, and our staff has spent literally perhaps hundreds of hours providing them with information as far as information they need to consider a site, and we certainly hope it's going to be in the city of Marquette. Your suggestion about the power plant really goes beyond our responsibilities. The Board of Light and Power would be responsible for that, and of course We Energies is an independent company, to say nothing of the fact that I'm sure we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, so I'm not sure where that would come from. Hopefully Mr. Brassard will have some kind of answer to his question. I think we kind of assumed that maybe somebody would get back to him after the last meeting, but I don't know what's happening there. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Coyne?
I have nothing further this evening.
Okay. Commissioner Cambenzi?
A few things real quick. This evening we had a presentation and, of course, to approve the Arts Master Plan. These are two things that involve a significant amount of volunteer work, people from the community coming forward, and I think they are two of the most passionate items in our community beyond kind of the nuts and bolts of streets, roads, infrastructure. And I'd just like to thank those people again who spent an enormous amount of time going to meetings. I'm certainly trying to hash out what the best plan or focus is going forward. Even if we don't approve some of them from this point going forward, I think it's important that any work that has been done is not lost. I think there's a time and place for everything, and certainly with the rec authority, I think we're just not there on a lot of them, and I think there's a lot of things that we as a commission, certainly our planning commission and staff, need to help us work through as we go forward. But I would like to thank those people again. And also, I do hope there is some resolution with Mr. Brassard, and maybe the city manager could give us a quick update in his closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambenzi. Commissioner Campana?
Two things. First, the library. It is a wonderful, I want to say it's a wonderful building, wonderful thing to have in Marquette. I hear nothing but positive comments about it. And if you ever get it, if you haven't been in there, if you just go in there, you'll appreciate it greatly. And second, David Brassard, I feel his pain. I wish we could resolve this one way or the other. I feel that he should be compensated. It sounds like, and I know it's dangerous to spot change rules, but it sounds like the rules are a little murky for him, and I don't see why they couldn't be addressed and maybe be changed. But I think he has kind of a legitimate case, but we need to look at it. But we've got to settle it one way or the other, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campana. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
A few items. Boy, it was really good to see it was very good tonight to see the good folks who step forward for the local development finance authority. That is just going to be absolutely critical to our future. And they will have work to do. It's going to be some heavy lifting for them, but I have every confidence that they will get done what has to get done. But we often lose track of things like that. We see a bunch of people appointed to a board, and we don't always see the outcome that comes out of that necessarily, or the importance it really plays to us. But that's the group that will lead directly into the final formation of the Smart Zone. The Smart Zone is really Marquette's opportunity for the future. If we don't have a vision for what that future is, and let me tell you, the vision does not include wooden rocks. We've been selling that for 150 years, and we've been selling our kids along with it because there's no jobs up here for them. And now this is an opportunity to change that dynamic, to have an opportunity to bring in good, high-quality jobs, different jobs, visionary jobs, future jobs that would let those kids stay here and let us build this area with our own family members. That's why this is so important. And it's going to be a longer process before we get there, but if we don't start taking these first steps, the ones that we're doing right now, we're never going to get to the end of that road. And that is just absolutely critical. If there's one thing that this commission should be proud of, is that we have started that process, because it will play out so well for all of us in the coming years. An interesting sidebar note relative to that is I believe the appointees to the LDFA are going up to Houghton fairly soon for a meeting. And perhaps you might talk about that, Mr. Manager, during your time, so folks understand that there's many things falling into place. My most sincere thanks for everybody that works on any volunteer committee of any kind, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, it's unpaid, it's frustrating. Sometimes they finish something and maybe it's not really what everybody was hoping for, but it really is critical to who we are as a city, and I commend those people very, very highly. Random thought would be Recreation Trail Authority and whether that would have a potential relationship to the Smart Zone in terms of economic development. And I offer that only in that context as something to sit down maybe and look about once we get everything stood up on it. It might be an opportunity that we're overlooking. Lastly, a little piece of interesting news. I think most of us might be aware that Deer Lake has been a Superfund site for many, many years, for generations in fact, due to mercury poisoning. Some members of the Great Lakes Commission will be up on Wednesday, and they will be officially declaring a victory, that Deer Lake no longer is a Superfund site. So that's good for the entire area. But they will that night, later that evening, be touring downtown Marquette. Our own Dennis Stakowitz will be taking them through on a harbor tour, so they'll have an opportunity to understand better how that harbor that we enjoy so much has changed over time and gone from being an industrial harbor to being really the wonderful jewel that it is. So good things are happening in the city, and sometimes they just kind of slide under the radar and we're not aware of them. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I guess I'd kind of like to, I might be repeating some of your comments, but the Smart Zone we have done a lot of work on. We did have 3 public forums where we answered a number of citizens' questions. I think a lot of the concerns that Mr. Beck addressed we have been cognizant of. We are working on. Admittedly, once we get the authorities stood up, they will have to enact a set of rules and regulations. Will have to come to us with those rules, or not rules, bylaws, I guess. And any plans that they have will be coming to the commission for final action. They're not going to be a body that just runs amok and without any oversight by the city. One last thing I want to mention is I had the opportunity and pleasure to speak to the Veterans Memorial rededication on the 4th of July, and I have to tell you the Legion does a great thing with the park, but I don't know, about 4 or 5, 6 or 7, just I want to share with my fellow commissioners, Legion leaders, commented to me how pleased they are that we didn't put the skate park in Harlow Park, and I think we found a good site for it, but certainly they were appreciative of it, and they did provide a pretty large grant of money to the skate park. So it's not that they don't like skaters, they just didn't want it in the park where, you know, it is kind of a tranquil place, and the memorial, you know, deserves that kind of an ambiance. So I think it was very enjoyable. That's all I have, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the case with Mr. Brassard, we've responded to the City Commission twice already on that. It's a private matter right now between the city and Mr. Brassard. I'd be glad to have a chat at some point to provide the Commission with options on how you might move forward. But From our perspective, we are continuing to be in dialogue, and our frustration on public comment is that people can get up and say whatever they want. It doesn't necessarily reflect the view of city, what's actually going on, or the dedication that the staff is putting to try to resolve these issues to everybody's happiness. At the end of the day, some people aren't going to be happy, but that is not a reflection of how much work we go into trying to resolve the issues amicably. So be glad to chat more about that and provide some options on how the commission might be able to address it at this point. I know Carl's spoken to it previously as well publicly. The rules we're speaking to here aren't just city rules, they're state rules associated with what the Waterways Commission has promulgated. We can certainly seek to change those rules, and that'll be one of the options we'll bring back forward. On the LDFA, exactly as the commission has said, we've been putting an awful lot of time into diligence and to visits. And apart from the exhaustive set of public meetings and work sessions and joint working groups and travel by the commission to Houghton Hancock to meet with all of the existing analogous leaders in that community about how their LDFA works, how their smart zone works. In the case with Scott Erbish, my peer at the county, Nora Val, Jim O'Toole down in Escanaba, and then all of the existing next Michigan zones that are currently operating, we remain in practically daily contact as far as the coordination goes, learning those lessons and then filtering those up to the city commission to make sure that you're fully informed about the different kind of actions that can be expected next. Again, that doesn't necessarily roll out to the broader public. It comes with the specific actions of the city commission, but the coordination necessary to do all the vetting, to understand the legislation, to take a look at the history of it as it's been implemented in Marquette, to take a look at how it's been implemented in the 14 other smart zones and communities that have adopted this around Michigan, and the 5 other next Michigan zones, has been very thorough. And I'm confident that the commission has a clear understanding of the timeline and what happens next. When the LDFA is established and it stood up with its new members, the next thing will be for them to review their bylaws, update them, and per the standing city commission, submit their bylaws to the commission for approval. Any actions of the LDFA will need to be will require the coordination with the city commission, particularly any of those that have to do with using the prestige of the city for financial decisions, whether it's tax revenues or whether it's any other action that might come before them. That's kind of jumping the gun at this point. Their next job is to stand up, get an understanding of what our expectations will be as a community, what the commission's expectations will be of that body. And to that end, Your Honor, to your question, Houghton and Hancock have invited the appointees to come to Houghton later this week, Thursday and Friday, to sit down with the LDFAs from Houghton and Hancock to get a firsthand understanding from people who've been doing this for the better part of the last 15 years, how those jobs function there, to give them some set of understanding about how they might choose to operate here in Marquette. They'll get an opportunity also to meet Smart Zone board members. They'll get a chance to meet the Smart Zone staff, the MTech staff, representatives of Michigan Technological University, the school districts there, to get a broad contextual understanding of what this looks like when it's working and working well in other parts of the state and certainly in other parts of the UP, to help inform their views about what to expect from the rollout here in Marquette. So I'm confident, since the City Commission themselves will be participating, many members, that they'll have a firsthand chance to see where things are working, where things might still need to be put in place. But ultimately, it'll give them an opportunity to gain confidence that we're doing the things we need to do, and hopefully, as that story rolls out, to communicate that to the public. And of course, we'll bump up our communication on that as well.
Thank you, City Manager. Anything further? Okay. We're adjourned.